Well, which technology trends do businesses have to watch out for this year? In studio to answer that question are Greg Vercellotti, as well as he's from Dariel and Gerhard Botha. He's from PBT Group. Gentlemen, good to have you with us today. Maybe the good starting point is to tell you about an update I saw about this particular story that we're talking about today. And you mentioned that South African businesses need to start adopting technological innovations. Is machine to machine a key starting point there?
I think machine to machine, or as has come to be known, the Internet of Things, is becoming a big buzzword, and I think a huge strategic opportunity for organizations. It's an opportunity to innovate, whether it be with one's customers or in an operational aspect, in the field, working with staff. There's so many opportunities that machine to machine brings you, or Internet of Things, where devices that connect to the internet and connect to people give you the opportunity to communicate and get real-time information about what's happening in the market or in the field.
Gerhard, I want to get your views on this one. Is that an opportunity or a threat? Because some people hear about the Internet of Things and machines, and many people start thinking about the protection of their jobs first, as though that's something that's creeping in on their space.
Well, I don't think it is a threat to anybody. I think it's opportunity. I think building on top what Greg said is that you can take this data now that is being built up through all of these devices, device to device and consumer to devices, and start analyzing this data. And so you get the big data picture coming in, and you start analyzing this data, and you're looking at trends and looking how you can actually predict the future and be prescriptive in the future in terms of what you can do with your environment and how you connect to your environment. So you can use all of these devices, like Greg said, and you can switch on your oven when you're not at home. You can look at your temperature in your car. You can look at your monitors. So many opportunities are being created by the Internet of Things.
So the power is in the information that is able to unlock.
Yes, and the power that is being given to the consumer.
Yeah. Let's touch on another interesting area, which is the integration of mobile apps. I'm a bit nervous about this one because it does seem as though it crosses several boundaries here, or does it?
I think the world of mobile applications has changed and has grown. It was a gaming device. It was suddenly it was your diary. We're moving into the world where the mobile application is integrating and linking into the business systems. So you can now do a claim right where you have your accident and integrate that or connect that to your policy, so that right there and then all of the claim information is captured and is able to be processed within 24 hours. So we need to integrate the mobile application and what we're doing into the business process, so that you connect your customer or you connect your supplier with what you're doing, and then you just extend your organization outside of its boundaries.
What sticks out for me is that you both use the word customer at some point. So are we becoming a more technologically advanced but also customer centric when it comes to these technologies that we're developing?
Absolutely. Technology was so used for internal stuff before. Now that we've got the internet, we have mobile applications, we have this Internet of Things, we're able to engage and bring the customer into our world or be part of his world. And so it's a lot more engaging, the technology now. So I think the customer is very involved in what we're doing, and you give him a much better experience of your organization.
As a business owner, Gerhard, at what cost do I need to gain access to all these technological advancements?
Well, that is a very important question to ask, because at some point you have to decide whether the investment in your big data, the Internet of Things, is worth it. If you start analyzing your data and you say, I can gain another 2% of my customer base, but it comes with such a cost that recouping of that investment will only happen in 5 years or in 10 years, it may not be worth it. So you have to build whatever you do and whatever technology you bring into your company, it must be a wise business decision first.
On that, is a wise business decision also making sure you keep up with the latest technology trends? You mentioned 5-year, 10-year brackets. We know how quickly technology is changing.
Yes, you have to investigate. You must learn all the time. You have to know what the bigger picture is and know where you're heading in your market. It doesn't mean that if you look at something, you have to buy it. It just means that you're aware of it and aware of the opportunities it can give you. But further than that, you first have to make your business case before you jump and buy the technology.
I want to pick your brain on business leadership at the moment. Are we thinking that far ahead? Are we incorporating these things into our businesses? You mentioned insurance companies, some of which do use technology quite wisely, as well as consumers also being at the helm of the power of that. But are business leaders having to change their minds with regard to technology and how they view it?
Very much so, and I think there's a huge strategic impetus in the market where leaders, CEOs, CIOs, CFOs are looking at how they can use technology more innovatively to improve their businesses. I think we've been in a cycle that we haven't had the extra revenue and the costs need to be managed effectively, that leaders are saying, how do I do this more effectively? How do I use technology more effectively to cut costs, gain revenue? I think also people are looking at disruptive technologies and saying, how can I disrupt my market? How can I get an extra percent here or there using technology with the ROI, but in a disruptive way? And you looked what's happened in the taxi industry, how we've changed with some international disruptive technologies, how that's changing. And people are looking for those opportunities. Now, there's lots that fail for those that work, but I think organizations are looking for that advantage and that innovation.
I want to pick your brain. I think you were referring to Uber there, the taxi service?
I was.
Ah, see, I tried to stay on my game when it comes to technology. But I want to get your insights here, Gerhard, on Africa as a whole. Yeah. Are we better positioned to be making use of this disruptive technology in order to jump certain elements which might hold us back? In other words, we're going back to that question with regard to the rate of progression in technology.
If you look at where South Africa is compared to the African market, I think we are well positioned. We've got very strong backbone up to Europe and to the east, so we can make use of a lot of this cloud technology, for instance, and a lot of parts of Africa is still lacking behind in that. Where it comes to the Western countries like Europe and America, I think we still have very big connectivity issues. So things like cloud adoption is going to lag behind simply because there's going to be a connection problem. Infrastructure in South Africa is not keeping up with the demand on the internet, so we need to up our game a lot on the internet here for us to be competitive and in the same playing field as the rest of the Western world.
In my mind, that goes back to almost two things, financing as well as government policies. Are those things talking to each other?
No, I don't think so. I think the government is definitely not paying enough attention to infrastructure. They're letting it over to the private sector for them to look into how to build more bandwidth and all of that. But I think it's such a big investment and such a critical part of the economy that it can't be just the private sector, because they're only going to look after their own interest. So you need a bigger thinking, a bigger hat, a bigger pool of money to actually increase the bandwidth in the country.
Exactly. Just to close off with and get your insights on this, Greg, the level of innovation in the country and on the continent as a whole, are we managing to compete with our colleagues in the likes of Silicon Valley?
Absolutely. I think we're innovating in the right ways. How do we bring African solutions to Africa? And I think they're very different to what Silicon Valley often has to offer Africa. How do we use this leapfrog of mobile technology and bring applications and technologies to Africa that are built in Africa? And I think we have a jump ahead of what Silicon Valley has to offer Africa, because we understand Africa.